Greetings. I am Dr. Corvus, and this is Miniature History, City Streets. Cities are driven by the principles of space and access. Once you've passed through the gates, the streets become the only truly public space. Which buildings you're allowed into, and more importantly, which places will offer you hospitality, will define your experience within the city walls. First, you'll need to get past the gates. The grander the city, the more impressive the walls. Citizens are often given free passage, but that recognition comes with a hefty price, usually half a year's wages or more. Unless you're wealthy or powerful, expect to pay a variety of taxes and tolls just to enter. Assuming you pass through the gates, you'll see the city at its finest, its main boulevards. These are potentially paved, include ditches to handle rubbish, and are wide enough to accommodate multiple wagons at a time. They're also lined with majestic buildings, estates, monasteries, public halls, inns, all usually built of stone, and the sides that face the street are often elaborately decorated. One feature they all share are thick walls and gates. Space is extremely valuable, and privacy is a privilege of wealth and power. Even merchants conduct most business in the streets, and the layout of their shops reflects this. They're long and narrow, averaging only 16 feet wide. This allows as many as possible to line the street. The ground floor is stone, with timber-framed walls above, rising to 3 or 4 stories that are larger than the first, creating an overhang that juts out into the street. The workspace on the ground floor features a large window, with heavy shutters that can be propped open to create a display table, or locked for security, as the upper floors are the home of the owner. Most business is conducted either on the street itself or through the shop window. Exceptions are made for the wealthy, but the average traveler shouldn't expect an invitation to step inside. Follow the street further, and eventually you'll find a major intersection, which will almost certainly be a market, one of many within the walls. Each will have a distinct focus: grain and vegetables, meat and livestock, building supplies, and they primarily deal in raw materials. They're often lined with the shops of craftsmen who use those materials to provide finished goods. Finally, the streets will deliver you to a castle or cathedral, the heart of the city. The castle will only be accessible to the public in times of danger, while a cathedral is technically open to everyone. The poor will be welcomed, especially on celebration days, but they will also be carefully managed and, once again, the powerful can expect access to additional spaces and resources reserved for their benefit. Stray into the side streets, and the conditions steadily worsen. Stone construction becomes rare. Streets narrow. Buildings crowd together. Dirt and trash build up, and eventually you'll stumble into the slums, where the watch refuses to patrol the crooked alleyways of ankle-deep mud. The buildings here are as rickety, rotting, and filthy as the residents are, and you're more likely to encounter packs of wild dogs or pigs than people, who spend as little time there as they can. Back in the main streets, the flow of people is constant. Farmers, merchants, and travelers bring goods to market, trade products and services, and share gossip and meals. While a modern city has parks and public spaces, here the alleys, roads, and markets are the social hub. Every day, the city's population doubles in size during daylight, and most of those people are packed into the streets. Holy days, and the celebrations that come with them, are common, and each can attract even more people. A holiday can summon masses of pilgrims, clergymen, and merchants eager to capitalize on the traffic. A minor celebration can mean a day of reduced prices, the temporary suspension of taxes, and public displays of generosity from guilds and nobles. Finally, there are the great annual fairs, usually held in summer or fall, that last for 3 days or more. Streets that were merely crowded before can become almost impassable as the population swells up to 10 times its usual size. These are the only occasions that most exotic goods can be found, as the sheer mass of people lures merchants and traders from far and wide. Spices, dyes, and all manner of delicate, rare, and perishable goods will be available, at least while supplies last. Of course, that also means a surge of pickpocketing, bribery, and corruption for the duration of the event. As night falls, the gates will close, and a curfew quickly follows, enforced by the city watch. Those found on the street without accommodations will be jailed, fined, and thrown out in the morning. So if you don't have an invitation to stay with a friend or a room at an inn, then your options are either to leave the city for the night, try to rent someone's barn or haystack, risk sleeping in the slums, or seek refuge at a church or monastery. Technically, every religious building is supposed to offer hospitality, but some are more devout than others. Even those that do usually do so for a limited time, and rarely provide more than the bare necessities. Still, if the choice is between a thin mattress, a thinner blanket, and a bowl of gruel on one hand, or a beating, a night in jail, and having your clothing confiscated to pay for a variety of fines on the other, that's an easy decision. Here are a few ideas that you can use in your campaign. Inside a city, there are usually no public spaces. Almost all transactions, performances, and gatherings happen in the streets. Quickly ducking into a shop or inn to escape pursuit isn't easy. It'll require climbing a wall or getting past a barred gate, and then dealing with armed guards. Just getting off the streets can be a challenge. Access is a powerful privilege. A citizen or guild member can expect discounts from merchants, suspension of taxes and fees, invitations to private estates and gardens, and preferential treatment in most circumstances. Half a year's wages paid to the city or a guild can buy that status, but it can also be stripped away by breaking laws or making powerful enemies. From day to night, the streets undergo a fundamental change. During the day, they're filled with travelers, goods, voices, and movement. At night, that quickly changes as the tides of people leave or take shelter in inns, homes, or with a religious order. Any citizens the watch finds wandering during curfew will be treated with suspicion, and any non-citizens will be assumed to be criminals. Once again, I am Dr. Corvus. Thank you for joining me for Miniature History, City Streets. Most of the information here was found in the Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England by Ian Mortimer. For more of my content, or to acquire my services as a voice actor, visit drcorvus.com.